Soft, fluffy texture, slightly sweet honey flavor, warm, buttery crust. Let's make honey wheat sandwich bread together. Start by adding 3 cups of whole wheat flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, and 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast into the stand mixer. Add 1/3 cup of honey to 1 1/4 cup of room temperature water and whisk until well combined. With the dough hook fitted, turn the mixer to low and combine the dry ingredients. Slowly add the water-honey mixture until all the dry flour is gone. The key is to pour the water in slowly and let it incorporate before adding more. You don't want the dough to be too wet. You can always add a little more water if the dough is looking too dry. Once all the dry flour is picked up, increase the speed to medium. Knead for 10 to 12 minutes. After kneading is done, it's time for the first proof. Prep the work area with whole wheat flour and grease a bowl with cooking spray. Flour your hands and the dough. Shape the dough into a ball. Next, transfer the dough into the grease bowl and cover tightly with plastic wrap. Allow the dough to proof at room temperature for 2 hours or until it is doubled in size. It is worth noting that in a cold house, it can take as long as 3 hours to complete a proof. Prep a loaf pan with cooking spray and set aside. Gently deflate the dough and turn out onto a clean surface. No additional flour is needed for the next step. Shape the dough into a rectangle and roll tightly into a loaf shape. Pinch the seams together to seal. Place into a greased loaf pan seam side down. Push the dough into the corners of the pan, loosely cover with greased plastic. Proof for 2 hours at room temperature or until doubled in size. For this bake, my house was super cold trying to fight off a Mississippi heat wave. Because it was so cold, it took 3 hours in total for the loaf to rise. After the loaf is risen, mist with water and place into the oven at 350 degrees. Bake for 30 to 35 minutes, rotating the pan 180 degrees halfway through. Let it rest for 10 minutes in the pan, then turn it out onto a cooling rack. Brush it with a little melted butter because this is the South and we put butter on everything. It also makes for a tender crust. It's tempting to cut into it now, but you need to let it cool completely for about 3 hours. If you cut into it while it's hot, you can ruin the texture as the loaf is still stabilizing even after you pull it from the oven. Be patient, you will be rewarded with delicious, fluffy bread. 3 hours later and it's time to cut into it. The aromas and textures of this bread put any store-bought loaf to shame. That said, I'm not above buying store-bought bread if I'm feeling lazy or the kids have worked my nerves all day. If you're having trouble finding sandwich bread in the stores, or you're just looking for a better, more flavorful bread experience, you should definitely give this one a try.